Hello and welcome everyone to Adobe Live from the sofa in the UK on Easter Monday. Happy Easter everyone. I can see a lot of you are already in the chat. Again, if you do have questions, pop them in there. I will read them out, or Rufus will read them out. Today we have Radim as our guest. Welcome Radim, how are you?
Oh, I'm great. Thanks for having me. I mean, sun is shining. It's bright and nice and sunny in London. So yeah. It's
and
nice
you can't go out.
I can enjoy the sunshine from This is the lockdown edition, indeed. Yeah.
Hi everyone. Yeah, and yes, welcome to our Easter Monday stream. I know it's a holiday, but we've decided that this is actually our third week doing these daily live streams. Stephanie, can you imagine? This is our third week already, and I've seen there's a lot of new first timers here. So I just wanted to say hi to Ben, to Steve, Angus, Kevo, Nilay, Brynja, Jackie. Jackie's here. Jackie's not a first timer. I recognize the name. John, Olabode, Gareth. Wow, so many people are here in the chat. And remember, the cool thing about the chat and Adobe Live is that you can interact directly with us. You can ask Radim questions for the next hour. And this live stream today will be all about Radim's work, his company Brand New, and his experience with branding. So I think we're going to have a really, really interesting chat. And also, let's make, one of the reasons we do these daily live streams here with artists from the UK is to give you inspiration, to keep you going, because it is a weird time. Let's put it that way. It is a weird time. And yes, our goal here is to inspire you with a new guest every day. So welcome, Radim. Welcome, Stephanie. And let's get right into it, Radim. Who are you? What do you do? And,
Rufus, no pressure, no pressure. It's the lockdown. It's Monday. I mean, when you say like, oh, it's Monday, it's holiday. Like when you're a designer, you get in trouble so often because you get asked like, so what are we doing this weekend? I'm like, working. It's like, it's the Easter. Is it?
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, it's April. Oh, is it? Oh, I didn't notice. Yeah, who am I? I'm Radim Malinic, Czech-born English designer, living in London.
Yes.
I think it just broke down.
I don't think so. I can still hear you. Yeah.
Good, because you paused for a second. Yeah.
Yeah. I freeze all the time. My kids are streaming, I guess, or playing games. Let me go check it out. Yeah. Stephanie, take it from here.
I will. So for those of you who don't know, Rufus sits in Italy, so it's hard to stream over the channel during lockdown. But I'm in London. Radim is in London, which is great, right?
We keep going strong. So so I'll get back to it. So I'm Radim Malinic. I run a company called Brand New, which is a two-person studio. I'm based in London. My creative partner, Tamas Party, is based in Budapest. So we've been mastering the working from home and remote working for the last many years. To us, this is business as normal, apart from me being sat in my loft because I've got 2 young children. And if I was downstairs, you would get to see a different operation. But as Rufus said, I run a branding and creative studio. We specialize right now. We've gone to specialize working with startups and individuals. And I mean, it's not really right now. I mean, this is what we've been all along. But now we put even more focus on actually providing kind of end-to-end service. And I've taken people from the basic idea into a full-blown product. And it's something that I found so super rewarding that we can actually do this, because as a creative, I feel like we are we are thinkers. We are, we like to call ourselves problem solvers. Sometimes we don't like the problems, but we like the solutions because, the problem and the solution is not always the prettiest things that you can achieve. So I just try to find like what's the barrier between taking something which is just an outline of an idea, outline of a thing, and actually building it all the way to the product. And it's something that I never thought. I didn't set out this would be my business as such. I got into creativity through being a musician. I was in death metal bands as a teenager. I was a DJ because I stopped liking my friends in my bands. Just went on
I'm gonna have to see some some footage of that, Radim.
Luckily, this is pre-social
I wanna
media.
see
This
pictures
is
like
mid-90s, and
yeah.
I moved to England from Czech Republic 20 years ago, and I moved here because I wanted to be closer to the music, because still even in year 2000 the internet was a thing, but it wasn't as fast. There was no Spotify, there was nothing of this kind. So if you wanted good music, you have to go to a record store or mail order it. And I moved to London, I moved to England, and I wanted to be closer to what I love, music. But I got more taken aback and more surprised and amazed by the amazing creativity, the posters, the flyers, the album covers. You know, I mean, England is a place where they invent a new genre of music over lunchtime. You know, like this is just like, oh, we've got this new thing, oh, we've got new style, and it just like the art and design was something that I'd got really excited about. I had little sort of stints as a sort of teenager making my band flyers and my sort of DJ gig posters and stuff. It was like a little test in good old Coral Draw, you know, back in sort of mid-90s, and all of that little knowledge it kind of came in handy by me applying for my first design job, and I needed to know very little. My degree is in economics. I've got a totally like mishmash of skills and knowledge as such. But in the end, now some 20 years later, it's actually nicely come together, because my sort of business, I mean, the remnants of what I know from economics, and kind of keeping an eye on top of it. Plus, you know, all the other stuff from music and stuff. It's a kind of combustive mixtures, because we are not a linear designers. Like we are not going to set out, okay, we just do logos, and maybe next time we'll do animated logos. Like we just approach things for what they should be, you know. So just like someone wants to make an album and they want to have a flute on track 7 and, you know, a trombone on track 1 or whatever. Like it's just, you know, it can be anything. And I think that's sort of the unpredictability of outcome is what makes me excited, because I'm a man, I'm a human, I'm a designer, and therefore I'm never happy with what I'm doing. I'm never happy with what I'm doing right now, because I want to do something else tomorrow. And this is always what we struggle with. This is what kind of keeps us happy and unhappy. And by having our work so unpredictable, by not specializing in a sector, by not specializing in a particular style, our work can be anything. I could be absolutely. We can work. We work with halal vitamins. We work with CBD. We work with bands and musicians. We work with Harry Potter franchise. You know, it's so varied. And luckily, with the suite of tools that we also use, like you don't have to kind of call a mate and say, "Oh, have you got a copy of After Effects?" I mean, this is a situation of like 2000, and like, can you animate something for us? Or have you got Premiere? Or have you got Dreamweaver or whatever? Like, it's all in your computer, and therefore, like, being kind of like multifaceted, it really helps to do that. So, and I'm kind of in this most convoluted way. I think this is how we operate. Like, we really create things which are tailor fit for every single client, based on a nice conversation, based on things that, you know, we make friends with our clients. This is the best thing, because I have worked as an illustrator for 10 years ago, a few years back, that, you know, when you're in a big machine, when you're in a big sort of food chain, when you're just illustrator, when you're creative in the bottom of an agency and a client, you don't really make friends. You know, in fact, you just gotta start hating it because it's complicated. Whereas now with my company, with what we do, we work with decision makers. You know, like, I mean, you will hear that often with small studios. Like, we work with the people who make the decisions. We inspire them. They inspire us. We become friends. And yeah, it's a wonderful thing.
Awesome. Somebody's saying, that this conversation about branding is exactly what they need today. So perfect.
Oh, right.
And and because we have so many people in the chat today on Easter Monday, which I truly did not expect. I thought everybody was going to be, you know, like doing other things. So thank you for coming to our daily Adobe live stream from the sofa. And just to remind everyone, we are doing these on a daily basis, every day with a different guest, and we are going to be doing those until it is necessary, which is for the foreseeable future.
Hello, 2021.
Yeah. Hello, 2021. Yes.
We have Solomon asking, I'm doing a video for my university on how I'm studying from home during quarantine. Is it okay to have the live stream featured?
Of course. Of course, Solomon. Of course you can, and it's great that that you're actually using those live streams to learn. We have a variety of live streams. We have live streams where we chat about a specific subject, where we look at stuff. Some live streams are more product focused, with people working with Adobe Fresco or Photoshop or Illustrator, for example. And all of those replays are actually under us. If you scroll down the page, you can see all of the replays. And our replays are recognizable because they have a little UK flag on it. So make sure to watch the replays if you missed any that might interest you. And yeah, and also be sure that everything that happens here on Adobe Live from the Sofa is here in on behance.net/live, and also on the Adobe UK YouTube channel. So no worries, you can always catch up. Radim, so basically, let's go to your page. So now you've explained a little bit, you know, how it all started, how you came to the place where you're at now, and I'm still amazed by your music background. I want to know more about that. And yeah.
No, there's some hidden things on YouTube that
okay.
only I know about.
What was your stage name?
Oh, we had no, I can't tell you.
Okay. All right.
No, luckily, I mean, I say unluckily, there's some of the demos, because it used to be tape. Like, we used to get our demos like on tape and stuff, and DAT. Do you remember DAT? But some of the stuff made it onto YouTube because, as I said, me and my useless bandmates, we've lost a lot of things. But yeah, it's all proper like gory death metal. So it was the thing of the time.
And Daniela is asking you, as a graphic designer, do you think it's typical to be a user of, say, Photoshop at a higher skill set, or more than this program to be at an expert level at a few, so Illustrator, InDesign, etc. as well?
What I would recommend to try to know as much as possible, really, because I see, I mean, to use a music analogy, I use my software, my computers as an instrument. I've worked on my workflow, and I've created lots of custom shortcuts that I don't have to think about, and that's that, and that's that, and that's here, and that's that. I mean, you want to be kind of, you know, you don't see amazing pianists going and A, C, you know, of course that would never happen. So it's just kind of, it's very intuitive. Like, I feel like we should be at one with what we're using, because it's there to help you. I mean, people have spent hours and days and months and years making these suggestions that they are preempting your workflow. So therefore, you only can benefit from it if you actually built it in better into your process. And I learned Photoshop from retouchers. Literally, I was lucky to spend about a year of my life working in a retouching studio, and I've learned more about workflow of Photoshop and Adobe Suite than ever before. And if I was to, I think it's more or less like being a designer, you try to sort of change things and you try to reinvent the wheel. And I think when you look at how Photoshop is structured, I mean, it does so many amazing things. And I would like to think that I know quite a bit intuitively that, you know, if I see a problem, I know how to solve it. Of course, there's 20 different ways to solve it. But that similar approach comes to, you know, Illustrator, comes to InDesign, comes to other packages that I need to know to be able to, for me, for example, to start a piece of work, finish it. You know, for example, Tamas has got more skill sets in Cinema 4D, in After Effects, in other packages. And I think this is where we've got a complementary skill set that we can start and finish projects, you know, as needed. But I can't recommend enough to, especially at the beginning of anyone's career, to just devour the tutorials and try and click on everything and really just spin things and click on knowledge, just like extrude them and the things, because it's the basics, you know. Like, there's a reason why there's hundreds of millions of videos of kids playing Metallica as a YouTube cover, because they are learning the instrument. It's only when you learn the instrument that you go, okay, here's my first album, and then you actually go into it. And I feel that that's what it is. With creativity, like, you really want to get lost in it and just trying to replicate it and kind of learn the reasons why people put stuff together. and only then go, okay, I can recreate it, I can do this, I can do that, this is fine, and then I can actually express myself. Because when I picked my guitar up, I picked it up because I wanted to learn the music. I wanted to recreate what I was hearing, because it wasn't particularly complicated, but it made me feel something. And when you see creativity, it made you feel something. And then you kind of like, what? How can I have a bit more of this? How can I try to have a go? And then,
and I think it also has a lot to do with knowing what's out there. You know, knowing it's like your cultural baggage, I guess. And you know, the more you know what apps can do, you know, I never really. You will never become an expert at everything, I don't think, but it is important to know that, you know, all of these things exist. You know, what does After Effects do? What does Cinema 4D do? What does Adobe Dimension do? And then you will have, you know, all the background knowledge to say, oh, but, you know, I think that is possible. Maybe, you know, that can be done in that way and that other way. And therefore, it's impossible. It's important to know what's out there and what, you know, function these applications actually serve, I think. So yeah.
So was Photoshop your first program, or how did you get into graphic design?
well, my first graphic design package was CorelDRAW. I mean, that just happened. I was the package. I had a summer job when I was about 15, 16 as a sign maker. They were using CorelDRAW, and I literally learned how to use a Pathfinder and that kind of stuff, really simple stuff. But my first program I learned properly was Adobe Illustrator. I literally went to a library like a Waterstones bookshop, and bought book on Adobe Illustrator just to literally work out where all the shortcuts are. Like, just what can you do with it? The book's got nothing to do with creativity. It just says, like, it's almost like buying a book on how to drive a car. It's not gonna really teach you, you know, like, he's not gonna tell you how to get from A to B the quickest way and the best way. It's down to you to use that knowledge. And so it was Illustrator that I started first, and I just loved vectors, like just literally like everything you could do with it. And there was this little sort of rudimentary 3D plugin, and it's just like, wow, this is exciting. But it was in about mid 2000s where I've come across the first proper Adobe Photoshop tutorials in magazines like Digit and Computerize in the UK. And what I was doing with layers in Adobe Illustrator, all of a sudden I was kind of like something like this. I feel like we always find like these Easter eggs, keeping it topical, but I feel like we're finding these Easter eggs along our journey, and things begin to make more sense, even though in front of you all the time. I have been using Photoshop, but not as creatively. It was more like, I'm going to crop an image and retouch it a bit, or just change values. Whereas the ability to actually multi-layer images and create things, you know, with the way we used to do them, especially there was a sort of particular style in mid 2000s of sort of particular collage illustration, which was again like renaissance of something from 1990s and stuff. Of course, we were just, you know, changing things from there. All of a sudden, I've gone from a graphic designer who was making posters and designs in Adobe Illustrator. I went to become a digital artist because Adobe Photoshop enabled me to do that, because I could all of a sudden, like, there was never, for those who are starting now, there was no Adobe stock in early 2000s. there was no good library. It was iStock was just coming up and others, but the majority of what was out there was just very. I mean, we were feasting on scraps, if that's not possible to say. So Photoshop was just amazing with how I can layer these images for my posters and then of my designs and my album covers, and then I just find myself having a career doing that more and more for bigger clients, bigger companies, ad agencies, ad campaigns. And yeah, I'm kind of thankful to Photoshop existing, because it's still a most natural place now, because I just love what you can do with it. Like, I still use it as a retoucher from mid 2000s or late 90s. Selective color is my best friend. Selective color just.
We have, that's great. We have a question from Oliver. He's asking, hi Radim, how do you find your clients? Do you proactively go and search for them, or word of mouth?
It's a word of mouth, and it's my website. I've always put most effort into having a good, properly SEO website. As you heard at the beginning, I I felt crowded in three-person band, you know. So when it comes to big portfolio sites or Instagrams and stuff, I'm on there, but I believe that the business as it is, you know, I feel like you need to be your own product in a way. So I always make sure that with the clients, it kind of feels like, and unfortunately with this time, it's more like just the spread of COVID virus, you know, like if you do one thing well for one person, they'll tell another 5, you know, and they will tell more other people. So I've always made sure that I've done good work for people at whatever price, just make sure that I'm well spoken of, but also to actually justify my time to work on the project, because sometimes you get good commission, sometimes you get bad commission, and at the beginning you'll get lots of the bad ones, and you think like, what's the worth? You know, what's in it for me? Whereas if you try to do really good stuff, even if against the impossible, then you find yourself that multiplies. So I work with people I've worked for the last 15 years. You know, I mean, they're brought in new clients. My website brings in inquiries. Yeah, generally that's it. I mean, we all feel that we need to go and approach clients, and it's possible when you do, let's say, smaller projects, especially as an individual. If you do smaller projects, then anyone out there, especially on your high street, not right now, but on your high street or in your community, can be your client, your friend, your mum's sister, or someone like you. Not be your auntie, I suppose. They can be your clients because you're learning. Didn't think that through. Learning the process, but it's the snowball effect. And I started my career making flyers for £50 a flyer, and like gig posters and stuff. And that's how I started. And I'm thankful for that, because I had so much fun. I can explore, because if someone throws you in and says, right, tell me about the business strategy and design strategy and all the at the G's, whatever, then you find yourself a bit sort of spooked out because it's too much. So I think it's just a gradual level of learning and being and kind of and growing as a person, as a designer, because it's super crazy to look at. You open Instagram and just go branding something, and you go like, that's amazingness, like forever. And it must feel so intimidating for people to be new and going like, well, I want to be that good tomorrow, but I will not be that good tomorrow because I've got lots to learn, a lot to understand. And it's, yeah, I think it's just a time to this. It's the more time you take to grow and the more time you take to enjoy what you're making, even if it's bad or whatever, you know, like you're learning, you're making something, you know, like every musician made a crap first song, you know, every musician played something really badly, you know, like everyone once used to suck.
but you loved it.
But yeah, I mean, I didn't know.
I think exactly, and I think this is, you know, this is a theme that's recurring in all of these conversations that we have, you know, over the weeks, and also, you know, we've been doing Adobe Live for like 4 or 5 years now, and this always comes back. You need to have fun at what you're doing. If there's any one moment that you think, oh God, no, this really sucks and I'm bored and things like, do something else right away. Don't waste another minute.
The problem is, Rufus, the problem is that we prejudge what we're making. So if I think someone once put it well, that if you notice that your music stopped 5 hours ago, then you're doing it well. You know, that's it. Like if you're distracted, if you're thinking, am I what I'm creating, is it good enough? Will people like it? What will they think? You know, what will my mum sister think? They will. That's you robbing yourself of happiness, because your mind isn't focused on what we're creating. And there's a huge element of mindfulness that we all go through the stages of like beginning, burnout, you know, reflection, enjoyment. And I think I'm just like everyone else. I've gone through that myself. And I would get a client commission, and they'd be like, do what you like. And I'm like, this has to be the best thing ever.
Yeah.
They didn't say anything like that. I was saying it myself, and I was putting these hurdles and pressure on myself to make something that it would be what's called internet's medium. You will put out a piece of work and they're like, hey, look, I work for this amazing multinational company, and people are like, all right, whatever, next, you know. And it's just because we let ourselves to believe that we have to be superstars on day 1 or day 7, and it doesn't matter. Does it work? I mean, This is the
I'm
ship.
just gonna answer a quick question from Sarah. I'm a photographer just learning InDesign in order to compile a book of text and photos for a local organization. Should I hire a designer or just try to do the layout myself? Well, it all depends on the amount of time you have, Sarah. You know, learning InDesign is always a good thing because it's about layout, it's about taking your work and putting it on paper. So it all depends. But there's many things, like for example, that that I try to outsource. Even when I had my own agency, there's things like copywriting, things like 3D and things like that I just didn't. I could have learned how to do it, I guess, but maybe there wasn't the time or there wasn't the interest, so I just gave it out to somebody else. This really depends on how much time you have, Sarah, and how much how much you're into creating your own books. Otherwise, give them away. I think that's the easiest.
If I could add, actually, if I could add to Sarah's, I mean, as a photographer, she'll have an idea of what she wants the book to maybe look like. So it's okay to start the project and then have somebody else to clean it up and actually finish it, just to make sure that it's all formatted properly. So yeah, therefore I mean, there's like a two-way feedback, because she would have a go at creating the book, and then when it comes back from, let's say, a designer, then she can see what they fixed and what they tell her what she did, but no, what wasn't done right, and that's even actually speedier way of learning.
And we have Jain, and this comes back to the conversation about branding. We have a jewelry brand, want to redo our logo, wondering whether just the company name or of its own works best, or if we should include some symbol above or below, plain packaging or pattern. How do you approach a project like that, Radim?
It might be slightly.
How do you decide whether it needs some graphic or just text or pattern or?
Well, we actually, as it happens, we are completing a project for a jewelry designer. One I prepared earlier. Yeah, I mean, I can. I mean, when we get to case studies, I can show you stuff, but it all really depends on the story. Like you don't know until you've literally looked at every touch point, every box, every business card, every shop store. You don't really know what is the right thing. It's just a reverse engineering. Like until, for example, until you've designed a car, you don't know what doors will look like. Like it all comes with a sort of big visual sort of bundle of ideas and kind of assets that you decide, because you want to know what else is there, like what else we create, what else. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell, because when you find yourself, for example, at meetings and people say, so you're the creative one, you've been here for 10 minutes, what do you think we should change? And I go like, well, I don't know. I don't know, but
what do you mean? What do you mean, Radim?
But what I'm trying to say is that I like it, because there was somebody, it was Ken Robinson, who said that was interviewing Dalai Lama, and they were discussing this big topic, and they asked him a question, and Dalai Lama said, "I don't know, I haven't thought of it yet." And they were like, "What do you mean you don't know? You're the Dalai Lama." But I'll show it later. Like if the person keeps watching, I'll show what we did for a jewelry brand, because we used visual storytelling. We used assets, and we created other things around the brand that tell the story of what actually happens with the jewelry and what happens with the person wearing them, and excitement and stuff. And yeah, it's I mean, we've got a particular way of sort of forming these stories in a way, or forming these visuals, and only it's after third conversation with our client that I would know, okay, it's just a name, or it's just a symbol. And of course, with the jewelry market, you get lots of diamond shapes, and everyone's doing similar things. So it's more about a personality, because when you think of it, the things that stick out are not the things that are really for the bracket, for the category. So if you're branding a jewelry company that looks more like a fashion company or some edgy something else, that's where you be seen, because that's what's different. So, yeah, that's my take on it.
Why don't we look at some of your work, and maybe you go into a little bit of like explanation of how you approach. Let's just decide on one of these projects, and let's go through it with you.
Yeah, I think what we can do. I mean, I can briefly show. Is my screen showing?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, my screen is showing. Excellent. So, so we did work. So the jewelry project we did was for a company called Noreen London, and what we did, luckily, in this case, we had obviously our sort of company founder. This is her name. This is her project, and we were considering sort of like from her previous branding, she had like a little diamond shape. She had a pattern, and we decided it just needs to be a proper standalone type. So we decided against it, and so we used the name, which mainly not just we used the name also because we wanted to, but based on the applications when we went onto boxes and other places, that's what we needed because the asset wasn't there that we needed. What we always do, we try to set sort of typeface choices. Normally, actually, I have to be honest that we normally gravitate now towards Adobe fonts because it's much easier to sync them for web projects. But this is actually an exception. And what we do, we operate like graphic designers and brand designers, but we also kind of think like interior designers. So we create what we create for ourselves is these sort of these art direction mood boards, or we create the materials that we work with. So like when we had a packaging test, we could see that the Noreen logo could be nicely forest stamped, and we've got some elements that help us to create it. The basic designs like the stationery and sort of all the leaflets that were done in InDesign. You can see they're modeled here and sort of standard. But what we did, what I was saying earlier, like what we did in 3D was creating these sets that they stand for the box. So that when you open the box of jewelry, technically something happens. You know, it's kind of invisible because what you've got is just a piece of jewelry. But we wanted to explain because this brand is for women only. So we wanted to kind of put emphasis on how the person feels. And, you know, we've got, this is kind of person getting ready and she's in the spotlight. And this is on the right-hand side. It's like be a center of the attention where, you know, the person's walking out is kind of bold and confident because, you know, that's what jewelry actually stands for. And I think there's one more image here at the bottom. Where are we? Yeah, this was just being confident, being out and having this thing. And it's just, again, like it's an interesting collaboration between the two of us and a client, and the client didn't come to us and say, I think you should make me some illustrations of open jewelry boxes. That conversation never happened. The conversation was like, I won't have the pictures of the jewelry for a long time, but I need to launch my brand. What can we do? How can I get some collaterals? How can I get some excitement? Again, because the jewelry doesn't exist, you can't photograph it. So it's like, again, it comes back. Okay, so we can't use a model. We can't use a jewelry because that's still being sort of modeled and designed. So what do we do? What we can create? And so we start looking into the idea of like, okay, so this, if there's like a four corners of someone's personality, you know, you're bold and unique, or, you know, you sort of confident and beautiful. So we just try to do that in our way. Like, how do we portray this? Like, how do we create it? And it lends itself nicely into like these sort of adverts, like I think I can't put you here, these ads. Then we put it across all of the other stuff. But like Instagram stories and other things. Like there's some sort of nice brochures with like velvet sort of laminated and stuff. What we did then, once we had sort of materials established and the colors and everything, we did some packaging tests because all of this stuff takes literally years to make. Like it's about 18 months from start to finish. So again, by use of 3D, we got people to see what they're making, and that's one of the biggest assets. Like actually for people to see what is the 360, and I can't recommend it enough. Even if you start with Adobe Dimension, just to get it going, it helps people to see because it can go back to the simple stuff. Well, it's simple, but as simple stuff as architecture. You know, if you tell people, "Oh, we're making a new building," the community will go, "Why? And when you show them the render and the prep of what the building's going to look like, they go like, "Oh yeah, I can see it now." And it's the same thing, like just how to work with branding clients and design clients. They want to know how you're going to apply it because they might be looking at your work on their phone. They're like, the font is too small, or this doesn't work, and you're like, well, it actually works because it's this, you know, like it's just, you show them what it is. So what have we done in some brochures? And Yeah, in designer, the online sort of the e-commerce store in Adobe XD quite seamlessly. Again, I haven't used XD till about 6 months ago properly, because I was going to commission a web designer, and it was just a conversation was just too long, so I just designed it myself in about 2 days and found it amazing. Like I literally, yeah, it's a great tool that, I mean, and no one asked me to say it, but literally I found it so much so intuitive. And you know, if Stephanie, if you wanted some shortcut suggestions for next year, I found myself using the InDesign shortcuts. Like, this really should be it. But no, it was really fun. It was really fun to be working on this. I mean, again, it's about 6 months of work. There's only very little on the site just yet because it's all still coming through. But as a freelance designer before, I would hope that someone would come to me and say, "Hey, I've seen your work and I've got this idea," and you go, "This will look great in my portfolio." These clients, they come to us and they're like, I do like what you do. How would you help me? And literally, it's still the sheet of paper is as blank as the wall behind me. Like, it's anything, you know? And it's the way, like, how the conversations go, like how we find ourselves to navigate the story that we get to, you know, we get to that sort of that end result. And it's inspiring. It's really inspiring to help people to tell the story in that way, because people that come to us, sometimes they never even heard of Behance, they never heard of many things, you know. They go like, what is this 3D thing, or what is it, you know? Like they are business people, they know more about growth and, you know, numbers. They know about visual stuff, and they're not always the most imaginative people, and therefore, like, helping them to understand this process, this is what helps you to have them on your side. The more you speak to your clients, the more you win. Just because we all have done it. Like, we all sat at that desk with our little Mac and go like, "This is my work. What do you think of it?" I'm like, "Can you tell me more?" "No, just watch this. Just, like, you know, spin it." Like, no story. And this is why, you know, this is why we are glued to streaming devices, because we want to know what's happening next. And if you are that storyteller, which can be a really scary thing to tell people, like, you know, you're a designer, you don't feel like talking to people, be a storyteller. You know?
We have a question from Sandrine. She's asking, "Hi Radim, how do you keep your mind fresh? Is it enough to just wade through thousands of Instagram posts or other creative websites? It always feels like I need a prompt for me to be creative."
I mean, it's okay to need a prompt. I mean, I've got 2 young children and I never sleep. And luckily, I'm in a different stage of a career where it's literally got by understanding the other side of the argument, like understanding the client, understanding their story. That's what inspires me now. I mean, I might see some nice color or some nice shape or some nice thing. So again, it's good to know what's happening around you. It's good to know what other people do. But the inspiration comes from other people. Like, we take what they tell us and we amplify it. Whereas if I was at the beginning of my career, I would have folder like 15 gigabytes big with images of things that I found amazing. And then I would try to find myself to try to replicate it. And I would hate it because it wouldn't be anywhere near as good. And be like, maybe that's not for me, and that's not for me, and that's not for me. And you kind of, I mean, it's okay to work when you're inspired. It's okay. I mean, unless you go know somewhere that you need to be first, it's okay. Like, because just like we spoke about music earlier, like, you know, John Mayer doesn't write most amazing music every day, you know. Eric Clapton didn't write amazing song every day, you know. It's when it comes to you, like when your consciousness comes and says, okay, you know, like, you've seen 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now when you put them together, it makes sense, you know. Like, that's how it feels. Like, it's okay to wait, and it's okay not to rush, because it's the most impossible thing to do right now, because you want to have the most amazing work on Instagram today. Well, not actually now, right now. But, you know, it's okay to take time. And especially right now in the lockdown, there's no rush at all. So it's like, how do you associate with what you're making? Because at first we want to make everything. Like, I remember being so obsessed. I used to update my website like every day with new stuff. This is pre-Instagram, pre-Facebook. This would be my portal, and it was a popular site. It was like literally 1 million people a year. I was like, this is great. But now the attention is sort of everywhere else. You know, you think, well, maybe I should look after myself first. And what does creativity mean to me? Why do I want to do this? And the more you've got those questions answered, the more it helps you to formulate what you're trying to create.
We have Bob asking, as a photographer using Lightroom and occasionally Photoshop, but I never know when to stop tweaking the image. What do you suggest?
That's fine. I mean, there's always you always learn something new when you go back. As a designer, I mean, I use Lightroom just for the editing qualities. Like, we create something in 3D, and I'll take it into Lightroom just to tweak the colors and, you know, the dehaze and all sorts of stuff. Just, I mean, again, amazing tool. But when do you stop? Like, ask a musician, when do you stop making them, you know, the track? I mean, everyone tries to sort of tweak the sounds and do this and that, but it's kind of like almost giving yourself, like, if it's just as personal work, give yourself a sort of deadline of posting something, actually having something when you're working towards. Because I was telling Rufus and Stephanie just before this broadcast, the website you're looking at now, or that's online, that was a year in the making, and I did most of the work last night. I mean, it's kind of getting to it, because we are so. I mean, I'm a dad, I'm a studio owner, and I'm an author. There's so much going on in my life, and it's just like, when do you stop? When do you stop? And yeah, making books, actually, that's the best deadline ever, because I have to. Yeah. We'll talk about it later, but it's like, you have to set yourself a deadline, because you can always go back and you've learned something new, some new technique, and you revisit the image.
And talking about books, Kelly Wall just said, just purchase your book, Radim Malinic.
Excellent. I mean,
yeah.
And Nada was asking, where was the color inspo from?
Which one's that?
For the project that you just showed us, she's asking, where was the color inspo from?
The color inspo was a collaboration. So we've gone through different. So the jewelry project, we've gone through different iterations. We had some sort of peachy pinks and that kind of stuff. But it was actually the client who said, in the end, that's the color that speaks to her the most. So we had images that were a bit more colorful and a bit more different. And if I was in the studio, I could show you more behind the scenes, but it's in the other place. But the client told us. The client said, actually, what I want a brand to be is what she thought about green and gold and stuff. And we worked with her just to make sure it's the right tone and it's the right balance of things, because some people find they can find something and go like, that's what I want. And you were like, well, that's RGB color who will never print well in CMYK, and it's not a really good Pantone match. So,
and Radim, talking again about branding and about, you know, supporting clients and like walking with them and on their journey to the discovery of their new brand. Frank has this interesting question about, you know, how do you find the right solution or way for customers or clients, not necessarily what clients want, and because, you know, obviously sometimes the clients have the wrong idea, and maybe, you know, how do you tackle that? I mean, how do you?
So there's the famous Henry Ford quote, who says, if I asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses, not a car.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what it is. Like, I mean, it's when we get a brief and it's like a scam from someone in a marketing team, and they send it to us, and they go like, better version of this, you know, like, we can do a better version of all of it. Like, it's just actually, you try to preempt it by, and you have to be careful by not to be cocky, or by not to be like, I think I know better. It's more like, actually what you're trying to do, and there's a method it's a method I've been using. It's called spin selling, that you don't tell clients what is wrong with the problem, like that you think what's wrong. You spell out the implications of pursuing the wrong route. So it says, oh, if you do this, then your website XYZ wouldn't work together, that wouldn't work together, that was not going to happen, and actually it might have a negative impact on your business. All of a sudden you can do what they need rather than what they want. And I think it's just, again, getting your client to understand that you're here to do your job. And of course, because it's a visual thing, you know, it's such a thankless job.
And, you know, Radim, one of the biggest clients I ever got, I actually got because I told them, no, you don't need a new logo. Because they said, they came to me, we want a new logo. And then I was going, no, you don't need a new logo, because the logo does everything it needs to be. It's beautiful, it's well designed, blah, blah, blah. We would just do it at the service. And from that, boom, everything else came automatically.
And it's also the honesty. I mean, you get designers who at a sort of mid-level and they go like they come across a new client and go like, terrible logo. I mean, and they'll be like, oh, we had it done last week.
Yeah.
It's just like you never know who you're approaching, but it's just like you don't come to someone's face and go like, terrible shoes. I mean, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You're like, can I make you new shoes? You would never do that. So yeah, I think it's about measured. You know, we are meant to be professionals. We need to know our stuff so well that, you know, people listen to us. And again, by honesty, saying, actually, you want to pay me thousands of pounds to make a logo new, you don't need it, because again, it's the reverse engineering. Like the logo works well there, and I can keep going about that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Jonathan is asking, what are you making your 3D mockups with?
We're making the Cinema 4D. It's Tomasz who makes it in Budapest, and yeah, we're making 3D. I've done some work with Dimension before, which was, I mean, for my tests. I kind of find myself, hello, my reading book. What I find myself through kind of my career, my work role has changed. So I'm client facing. I deal with clients, and therefore I got half of the time that I used to have. So I've decided that instead of me spending weeks and months learning Adobe, learning 3D, actually it would be best to sort of partner up with someone. And yeah, so I mean, everything on this page is this is for a CBD brand, and everything on this page is actually made in 3D. I mean, I've got the products here; they exist, and I've got the boxes. But this is 6 months later. You know, like this. Literally, this was delivered on Friday. Yeah, so we help clients to see that beforehand, and yeah, it's Dimension does it really well, and I think I can't emphasize enough how important it is to show people, especially if you're making physical thing, what it might look like, how it spins, you know, like literally what is the 360, because people will buy into it. Because if I mean, in my past, I was to do a flat layout with a cutter guide and whatever. People go like, is the text too small? Is it too big? Is it, you know, is it big enough? You know, what does he think? What do you think? What does my mum's sister think? You know.
We got Flynn Tracy in the chat, and Flynn actually does Adobe Live in Australia. So
fantastic. Hello, Flynn.
Welcome to the chat, Flynn. Yeah, with a truly like we do it on a global scale now. Yeah,
on a global
Australia,
lockdown.
Europe, USA. Yeah.
Nilay is asking, where do you usually get your inspiration from? How often do you visit museums or exhibitions?
That's a good question. I don't. I don't do it very often. What I do, and this might sound a bit weird, but I try to study people. We are such weird creatures that, you know, you get more inspiration, especially for brand building and for other stuff. You get more inspiration by going to your local cafe or to your local high street and see what people buy, how they carry the bag, on what they wear, how they style it. You know, kind of have a bit more sort of like a forensic look. But what actually the products that we create, what do they become to be? You know, like, so I don't create art. It's, yeah, I mean, I feel like when you're on high street, or when you're in a coffee shop, you know, you get inspired that you can create a coffee brand, or you can get inspired by creating a piece of apparel or a notebook or something like that. That feels more doable, and I feels like that's almost like a sort of, again, reverse engineering problem solving, because art is serene. Art we need as a sort of to distill from the crazy busy lives that we live. So art is more there to fill your soul with calm, because our lives are so frenetic. And I mean, yeah, I get inspiration from something that I know I can use usefully. And yeah, I think I don't sort of discourage people from going to see museums and stuff, but it's more about how do you interact with the outside world? How does it connect with you, and what's there? Because we can call ourselves what we like, but we are, unfortunately, we are building the outside right now, and that's what finds my inspiration.
So what are you doing these days?
What am I doing these days?
Yeah, where you can't sit in a coffee shop and watch people.
I read Twitter. No, luckily I'm busy enough. Well, luckily we are busy enough to kind of carry on. But again, like my inspiration would be more like a tweaking now. You know, like the best version of something is version 46. So I'm still kind of the inspiration's full for now. But once we get out, I mean, I have to be honest. I took the kids yesterday just for a walk. And everything after lockdown, well, in the lockdown, feels so amazing because I was walking down the street and they were like, I've never seen this color. I mean, I've been walking the same road for 5 years. And yesterday I was like, wow, look at that shape of the Volvo. Wow. And like, you know, everything's so suppressed. So like not to go out and you see something amazing, just you blow your mind. So like, yeah, that's that. And also I'm actually planning to write to the next 2 books at the moment. So I'm like, really on it. So the lockdown's working for me.
So talk a little bit about your books.
Yes.
So the first one was
we've got
walk us through it.
So it all started in 2016 with Book of Ideas Volume 1. It wasn't Volume 1 then because it was just a book of ideas. I mean, I'm now realizing how sort of pretentious title I've given it, but I've been making since ever I've started my sort of freelance career. I've been making these little sort of brochure promos by giving them out because everyone had an iPad and everyone walked in a meeting with an iPad and they walked away. And standard, like we've been sending stuff to other people for hundreds of years. So I wanted to have a book that kind of contains a bit more of my sort of thinking, like philosophical take on creativity, how I make the stuff, kind of show some of the, I don't know how to do this, how to show some of the work and what's done and some sort of, just kind of like a snapshot, like what is the mind behind a designer. And as I mentioned earlier, in about 2012, I've gone through quite extensive burnout. I needed a therapist to help me to get through it because I was very much buying into this sort of social media spinning wheel, whatever, and I was putting too much pressure on myself. I was working 18 hours a day. I was working from home. So I would wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and work all the way till 10 in the evening. It was just like unhealthy pattern. And I, at that time, reconnected with sort of meditations and mindfulness and that kind of sort of more spiritual side. And I wanted to write something from the mind of the designer, like something that happens to all of us, because there's enough. Somebody, especially in Germany, called it like, this is the worst book on graphic design. And I'm like, yeah, maybe. Because there's hundreds of other books on graphic design. If you want grids, if you want guerrilla marketing, if you want something else, there's other books. But this is kind of like my story interwoven into the book. And it was kind of a haphazard process. You know, I did it, I published it, I did it myself because I wanted to publish it what I wanted to publish it rather than be at mercy of a publisher and marketing schedule, whatever. And I just did it like, okay, 3 or 4 months it took. It took me about 4 years to really formulate the content. And then I started writing and I put it out there. I was like, done, dusted, whatever, never again. Because it was kind of like tense process. And people go like, cool, I liked it. When is volume 2 coming out? I'm like, never volume 2.
Did you call it volume 1 from the very beginning?
No. It was actually, so this book, I mean, if you own this book, there's actually 5 different versions of this book.
Oh, okay.
It started being volume 1 and third reprint. So I do like a 5,000 print run. And it was volume 1 from about 2.5 years ago. I realized that there'll be another book, which was volume 2. And yeah, I mean, so I can see from Instagram photos how which version of the book people have. So like I can spot it. The latest version's got number 1. As you can see, there's like a little 1 embossed in the foil. I don't know if I'm trying to catch the light. Because with number 2, which was in partnership with Adobe Stock, we tried to recreate a cover. Got a little number 2 going on there somewhere, like in the foil. And it's the best way to announce that there's a volume 2 when you put volume 1 on the first one. And again, and it was a continuation of the thing. So I enjoy making the second book because I already knew something. Like I've already conquered the thing. You know, like I've accomplished the cycle once, so that I've gone in again, and it was a busy period of my life. We were rebuilding this house. We were doing all sorts of other things. There was like a proper, you know, like there's no ideal there's no ideal conditions for anything in life. You know, like if you are in a lockdown now and you're bored and you've got nothing else to do, enjoy it. Enjoy it. It's like I'm up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I've got children and work and lunches and out and stuff, and life gets busy. And if you've got nothing else to do right now, make yourself busy, because life gets busy soon. So no ideal conditions, but I managed to get this out. Again, I'm running this all on my own publishing company, and it was great to make this with Adobe stock. We actually put an editorial in how to make the book cover, getting one step ahead of the people. Like, how did you make it? Page 244. So and again, I just kind of this book goes a bit deeper on that sort of a designer creator mind. Excuse me, sort of mind of a designer. Like, I just literally, this is all about like, what can you do within yourself to make this better? Because it doesn't tell you, apart from tutorial, like how to make these images, but it tells you how to come out of yourself and how you can be functioning introvert, and how you stop being wanted to be famous, or just working for free and that kind of stuff. Like, it just has like a little nugget of my sort of thoughts of like what we can do as creatives, and how it sort of changes your mindset. Because the skills, like the clicking of the screen, that's the secondary part. It's just like, what do you bring to the party? And
if you could do the book again, what would you do differently?
If I could do these two again, they wouldn't be the same. I have these two kind of like a snapshot of that time. There's things that I still associate with, but I would have written them differently now. Like, I mean, I'm really happy that it's printed, it's encapsulated, it's literally, that is it. I can't change this. I mean, I can tweak a little bit here and there, but the general gist of it is there. And what I like about this is, like, when you get Pearl Jam or whatever, like when they wrote the album in 1991, it's been recorded, it might be remastered, and that goes back to the question about the image earlier. Like, you just got that encapsulated, and that's you at that time, and we had to kind of make peace with that. That's the expression of what we had. So I wouldn't have done many things differently. It's just that I know that some of the things in there I would have said differently. I mean, but the books, the sizes, everything, it's designed to be like an affordable luxury. It's designed for the right size, so I can post as many as I can. It's not too heavy on postage. It fits for the letterbox. You can put it in your handbag or whatever. And it's just like, it's the thing that it's, I've thought about it so much that it's meant to kind of fit in, rather than, I could, as a self-publisher, I couldn't really print book this big and like a Taschen style, like this. I couldn't do that. So, and the story goes that I thought 2 books, that's enough. I never thought. And but it's the mindset of, like, when you start thinking about this, I now spend 2 or 3 minutes a day, scattered across the day, thinking about a new chapter, thinking about a new book, thinking about something else. That's what I do now. I've got semi-successful publishing and business, and it can be my full-time job now. But I've decided to kind of keep everything going, because you never know. Might stop buying books one day. But what we were talking about today, Book of Branding, came naturally together by me doing analysis of the market. So this is just written from the experience of helping the last 10 years, helping people making products, making businesses, making services stand out in a crowded market. And I wanted to do it differently. I mean, I know that's such a cliche thing to say, but I've got something called a plugin for Amazon called Jungle Scout, and I can see what are the books that sell the most in branding category. It scans the whole Amazon, so you can see. So I can see the keywords, what people search for. The most popular book in branding is called Story Brand. There's nothing that you would think of. And you get an insight of actually what really sells. And there was no need for another branding book. Not in the same way being written like all the other books, but I wanted to write in my own self, like my way. So that's why we got 3D on a cover and nice little shiny logos, like it's just to surprise people, just to excite them, just to create something that, if you create a norm that's been done over and over again, no one's going to say, no, it's just like looking at someone's Instagram going, more of the same. So and try to refresh it. But every little aspect of the book, it's considered. You know, it's meant to be like, I feel like the what I call the Pulp Fiction effect. You know, you open it, and it's just again, it talks about how to get a book. How to get a project done if you're doing stuff for startups. So it doesn't go super deep for, you know, like have some audience researchers on it. It doesn't go like proper Coca-Cola style. Like, I mean, that's okay for them. You know, it's just like it's been written for myself for 10 years ago. Like if I needed to know something, what do I find out? Like what would I do, and what is this sort of package together? Because we have branding designers out there, and we put 10 of them in a line, and everyone would have a different definition.
So right to your point, Alex is saying, reading Book of Branding at the moment. It's great, and I love the design of that book. So you see, people are learning. Oh, there you go. Is this your Easter balloon?
No, it's my daughter's 4th birthday.
Oh, okay.
Celebrating.
Radim, our time is over for today.
Is it? Oh, sorry.
It is, yeah, like time flew already. And yeah, I just wanted to ask you, do you have like one little piece of advice to remain creative, what to do during these days of lockdown, and and stay creative?
Stay creative. I mean, I think it's okay. I think there's two different things. I mean, lockdown is quite hard on many people, but it's okay not to overdo it in a way. It's okay to enjoy that little moment. It's okay just to say, okay, today I might do one thing. It could be just a sketch, or it could be just something, and tomorrow you can revisit it. And yeah, I mean, generally, I guess not for the lockdown, but generally it's like, this thing is a marathon. It really is a marathon. The creativity that you've got in your career, if you're in it for the long run, it's a marathon, and it's enjoyable to do something today that will help your career maybe a year later. You know, like just to look at unknown places or have a conversation with people that will inspire you. The good thing of the sort of mid-2000s creative community, like we were all talking to each other on MSN and whatever else we had, Skype, and it was just like, I found it inspiring conversation with people, more inspiring than necessarily looking at other people's work. So be more human, be more empathetic, be more compassion for people, and I think just kind of look into the meaning of why do you want to create something, like what you add in, because once you have that, even if it's just make someone else's life happier, easier, or whatever it is, that gives you the bigger meaning of why you do this as a creative. So yeah, that's what I would suggest. Like, enjoy what you're doing today, because it's, as I said, no one's looking for you to be the most amazing tomorrow. No?
So there's so many thank yous to you in the chat, from Jackie, from Ian, from David, Catherine. Oh, being on these Adobe Live sessions is inspiring, Catherine. And this is exactly what we're trying to achieve here, to give you the daily dose of inspiration to keep you going. And tomorrow we're going to have Mikiko with us. She's a London-based manga artist, and so it's completely different. She's going to be drawing on her iPad, maybe in Photoshop, maybe on the iPad, I don't know yet, but tomorrow is all going to be about manga. And yeah, looking forward to that. And Radim, thank you so much for sharing your insight and like taking us through your career and your journey and your ideas and your books. The amount of stuff you do is just mind-blowing, and I love the way you approach these things, and I love the results. I love everything about what you do. So thank you so much for sharing it. And Stephanie, I'll see you tomorrow as well with Mikiko. All right.
See you tomorrow.
Do you have one last thought for our creative community?
Yeah, thank you all for tuning in on Easter Monday, and enjoy the rest of your bank holiday, and see you back tomorrow.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.